Hey everyone, this is Dennis. Welcome to the Commander Table. Today, we're back to another deck tech with one of my oldest and most beloved Commander decks, Alesha Who Smiles at Death. Alesha is a 3-mana 3/2 with First Strike with the following ability. Whenever she attacks, you may pay hybrid white-black to return a creature with power 2 or less from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Alesha is a red creature, but due to Commander's color identity rule, we can also include white and black cards thanks to those hybrid mana symbols. When I first set out to build my Alesha deck, I had two goals in mind. First, I wanted the deck to go wide with creatures, and I also wanted the deck to be aggressive. It still does those things, but as the years have gone by, I've changed the deck to include a few combo kills to serve as a plan B. I'm really excited to share it with you, so let's get to it. As usual, we start with Ramp. This is a deck without green, so once again we turn to Mana Rocks. In this deck we have the full set of each of the on-color signets and talismans and the ubiquitous Sol Ring. Supplementing our Mana Rocks are Solemn Simulacrum, Ashnod's Altar, Sword of the Animist, Smothering Tithe, and Dockside Extortionist. Let's move on to card draw. Skull Clamp, Skull Clamp, Skull Clamp, Skull Clamp, Skull Clamp. This deck can function without it, but having access to this piece of equipment really brings the deck to full throttle. I've included Stoneforge Mystic and Steelshaper's Gift to find it, and Restoration Specialist as a way to get it back from the graveyard. I was fortunate enough to pick up a Stoneforge Mystic before it got unbanned in Modern, so if it's above your price point now, I'd suggest substituting in Open the Armory. Our other ways to draw cards are Mentor of the Meek, Disciple of Bolas, Harvester of Souls, and Dark Prophecy. We have one rummaging effect with Cathartic Reunion as a way to pitch excess lands and get creatures we plan on reanimating into the graveyard. The next category is what I'm calling Armies on a Stick, creatures with power 2 or less that make creature tokens when they enter the battlefield or die. A lot of the deck revolves around recurring them to grow a big board of creature tokens, so we have a healthy number of them in the 99. Angel of Invention, Elenda the Dusk Rose, Knight Captain of Eos, Marionette Master, Ministrant of Obligation, Mogg War Marshal, Chittering Witch, Siege Gang Commander, and Weaponcraft Enthusiast. And how exactly do we recur these armies on a stick? Well, the most obvious way is with Alesha's ability, and to help our commander do her thing, we have a few Alesha support cards. Anger and Lightning Greaves give haste, allowing her to attack and trigger her ability right away. Reconnaissance, while not only giving all of your creatures pseudo-vigilance, can also prevent Alesha or the creature she revives from dying in combat. But we don't want to rely solely on Alesha for creature recursion. After she dies once, it costs 5 mana to cast her and 2 more to activate her ability, and 7 mana to reanimate a creature with power 2 or less is not a good way to spend our resources. So to help out with that, we have Victimize, as well as Karmic Guide and Reveillark. Karmic Guide is a really powerful tool in this deck because it allows the reanimating effects of Alesha and Reveillark to bring back creatures of any size, and we do have a small handful of creatures with power greater than 2 in the deck, such as Reveillark itself. In fact, Reveillark and Karmic Guide can be used together to make an infinite loop of recursion, but I'll talk more about that when we cover the deck's combos. Board Wipes. This deck is usually looking to be the aggressor, but that doesn't mean we can forego board wipes. We just have to try to maximize the value we can get from the ones we use. Austere Command is flexible enough to be good in almost any situation, and since most of our creatures have low power, Dusk of Dusk to Dawn and the second loyalty ability of Elspeth Sun's Champion are also good. Martial Coup is less discriminatory, but it does leave behind a healthy batch of creature tokens. And though these aren't board wipes in the traditional sense per se, we also have Grave Pact and its cousins Dictate of Erebos and Butcher of Malakir. With this deck's recursion and Grave Pact effects, it's really important that we are able to send our creatures to the graveyard at will, and for that we have a small suite of sacrifice outlets. Viscera Seer, Ashnod's Altar, and Goblin Bombardment are all classics and for good reason. They are cheap to deploy, and they don't require mana as part of their abilities' costs. Next, we have targeted removal because presumably our opponents will play some cards that we don't want to leave on the battlefield. That's why we have Anguish Unmaking, Utter End, Swords to Plowshares, Terminate, and Wear and Tear. We also have Ravenous Chupacabra for that sweet creature recursion value, as well as Duergar Hedgemage, Though if your land base can't support the requirements of the Hedge Mage, I recommend running Reliquary Monk instead. Now that we've laid out the groundwork, let's talk about how this deck wins the game. I've already mentioned that this deck has a few combos in it, and I'll get to those in a minute, but first I want to make sure you try killing your opponents the old-fashioned way, by buffing your patchwork team of creature tokens and turning them sideways. Cathar's Crusade is a truly terrifying card, and if it doesn't get removed immediately, there's no telling how large your creatures will get. Elesh Norn is equally devastating, and is one of those few greater than 2 power creatures I mentioned earlier. Gold Knight Commander is a little more innocuous in appearance, but is also a force to be reckoned with, and if your opponents do happen to reckon with it, you can get it back with Alesha. If you get one of these Anthem effects online with a large board, don't forget about Marionette Master's ability. Once it's at 4 or 5 power, you can easily finish people off by sacrificing your remaining servos and treasure tokens. As much as I'm loath to admit it, sometimes combat doesn't quite get you there in a game of Commander. Sometimes someone gains hundreds of life, or you've hit wave after wave of board wipes, so it's good to have a plan B, a combo kill. This deck has a few, so it's important to know how they work. The first, as I alluded to earlier, involves Reveillark and Karmic Guide. This one's pretty simple. Reveillark, when it leaves the battlefield, can reanimate Karmic Guide and one other small creature, and then Karmic Guide reanimates the Reveillark. Throw a sack outlet in the mix to get infinite mana, damage, or tokens. The deck's other combo kill involves the card Nim Deathmantle. Nim Deathmantle is an equipment that sits around until a creature you control dies, and then you can pay 4 mana to return it to the battlefield attached to the Deathmantle. So now we just need a way for a creature entering or leaving the battlefield to give us at least 4 mana and we can go infinite. Dockside Extortionist seems pretty good at this. As long as our opponents control collectively 4 artifacts or enchantments, we can recur the Goblin indefinitely. Any more than 4 and we also get infinite mana. Another way to combo with Nim Deathmantle is with Ashnod's Altar and one of our many armies on a stick. We sack the creature tokens and the original creature, making 6 mana, then pay 4 to return the original creature to the battlefield, meaning we're back where we started with 2 additional mana, and we can repeat it as many times as we'd like. Now that you have infinite mana, you can sacrifice and return any of your creatures an infinite number of times. And if you can't figure out how to win from there, I don't know what to tell you. Alright, I just have a few more miscellaneous cards rounding out the deck. As this is one of my oldest decks, I've invested some more expensive cards in these slots. They make the deck more consistent, but aren't integral to its plan. Elenda, the Duskrows, and Teysa Karlov are a match made in heaven. Demonic Tutor needs no justification. Imperial Recruiter, if you can afford one, lets you find whatever creature you need to. Teferi's Protection, likewise, is expensive, but unparalleled in its utility. Anointed Procession not only doubles the number of creature tokens the deck makes, but also doubles up the treasure tokens from Smothering Tithe and Dockside Extortionist. In any case, that's the deck. I've really enjoyed it over the years, and I hope that, if you build something like it, you'll enjoy it as well. Before I leave you today, I wanted to talk a little bit about Alesha as a character in the Magic lore. I don't often dwell on the flavor side of Magic, but Alesha is worth talking about. You may or may not know this, but she has the distinction of being Magic's first canonically transgender character. Around the time of Fate Reforged's release, one of the articles released on Wizards' website told the stories of this young Mardu warrior proving herself in battle. First, as a teenager, claiming her grandmother's name as her own, and then as the clan's Khan, daring an orc to know himself with the confidence that she knows herself. If you'd like to read it, I've included a link to the story in this video's description. This past August, Mark Rosewater, in his weekly article of Making Magic, wrote about the importance of representation in game design. This, too, I've linked in the video description if you're interested. In it, he lays out 6 reasons why representation is important to game design, and he cites Alesha as a prime example of representation that allows players to have a sense of ownership of the game where they might not feel able to otherwise. As he says in his article, quote, "I can't count the number of letters and posts and emails I've received about her, many talking about how they've made an Alesha deck and how liberating it is to have the character as something they can play," unquote. And I too have had a similar experience. Back in college, a friend of mine, a trans woman who didn't even play Magic, found out about Alesha and instantly fell in love with the character. That experience, for me at least, highlighted not just the positive impact representation in media can have, but also the severe lack of trans representation in media at large. And so while I think the inclusion of Alesha in the Magic multiverse is an unequivocally good thing, when it comes to trans representation, the bar has been set pretty low. And I want to remind the Magic community and Wizards of the Coast specifically that providing representation to a chronically underrepresented identity or community shouldn't just be a matter of checking a particular box and moving on. Just as there are many trans girls and women who play Magic and, exist in the world, there should be many female trans characters in the multiverse, not just the one minor character on the plane where the timeline got rewritten, I think. I'll be honest, I'm not totally familiar with the full Tarkir story. My knowledge begins and ends with Ugin and Sarkhan were there, and then there be dragons. But I digress. The attitude of we've done enough is what leads to tokenization, and I don't want to have to describe Alesha in the year 2025 as Magic's single transgender character. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to share your experience with representation in Magic lore, please do so in the comments. Do know that I will be reading them, and if I feel that you're not treating the discussion respectfully, I will make use of the moderating power that YouTube hath bestowed upon me. Okay? Okay. And as always, go have fun.